obviously we're going to focus a little bit more on your clients and your culture, but I'd love if you could share stories of like your personal journey in your own mental transformation, because with habitual growth, right, it's getting people to figure out how to level up.
Oh
I've
man.
been, I don't know what you think of this, be honest, but I've really so our current like tagline is live with intent, or delivering the best version of you. I've been toying with a different one because there's going to be some functionality that's coming out in the app that's going to really enhance our
Cool.
clientele and what we're able to do. But I really like the phrase inspiring people to do more. And I really like, to me, that is reminiscent of what you're doing, because you're not only giving people tools and people, for lack of a better term, to expand what they're capable of, but you've also lived this and how you've set up your journey. So just think about it in that way. There's no right or wrong answers. This is totally dialogue. You can ask me questions. You can steer the conversation in a different way. I think you're pretty open, so it's not like,
Yeah.
you know, anything's off limits. But if we get into that territory somehow, just let me know and we can steer away from it.
Nothing's off limits. And I heard something this weekend at a mastermind group I was with, which was really cool. It's like intention is different than intentionality. And so like, you're kind of like this intent word. I think it's really good. A lot of people do the thing because they want to do the thing and don't really, or everyone else is doing the thing. So I think
Yes.
intentionality is just such a great message. I'm just gonna try to figure out.
You
Am
look
I
great, dude. I don't have any,
okay? Cool.
like, I don't see any shadows. I mean, there's a little from yellow light in the plant, but it's no different than this one. So
Yeah, I could take my hat off.
no, it's not blocking your face at all. You look
Okay, cool.
great.
All right,
Plus I like the double logo, honestly, of your hat and then the higher VP behind you. So it works out really well because it's a
yeah,
good reminder.
it's there. Yeah, you're not gonna miss it.
Yeah, I love it. And that's pretty good. It's something I need to do too. I'm looking at hats, but let's just kick things off. What I'm going to do, I'll kind of welcome you
Yep.
to the show, and then I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce yourself, because I want you to be able to say whatever you want about, hire VP, you as a person, what you do, how you help others, and then we'll kind of get into the questions from there.
Perfect.
Sound great?
Yeah,
All right, here we go. Scott, how are you, my friend? Good to see you.
I am doing well. How are you doing, Nathan?
I'm doing excellent. A lot better now that you're here with me, because this is something that I've been wanting to do for quite some time. As I was sharing off camera a little bit earlier, you've got quite a tremendous story, and you are one of those people that I maybe silently watch in the background as you've grown and changed and transformed. But not only have I seen you do that for yourself, I've actually seen you do it for your clients and then also for your team, which I think is really, really cool. It's almost like a trifecta, because you're bringing value to the people that basically work for you and then your clients, and you're helping them kind of transition into something much greater than themselves as well. So I think it's a really cool story. I think you have something really special going on, but it starts with the individual Scott. So can you just share a little bit more about Scott? Share a little bit more about Hire VP. What do you do and how do you do it?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I love sharing these stories. I love sharing the journey. So this is going to be a blast, and I really appreciate you watching the my content. It's been a journey, and you know when you're putting yourself out there, it's a new thing.
Yeah.
And I decided about 5 years ago just to live it out loud as I was going, and it's been quite the journey. But to answer your question, I am first a husband. I've been this June, I'll have been married 29 years. So
Congrats. It's
yeah,
amazing.
thank you. High school heat sweetheart. We didn't get married until after college, and then we went to got our master's degree together. But my absolute best friend. That's the most important thing for me. And then I have two boys. They're older. Obviously, being married 29 years, your kids are gonna be a little older.
Yep.
So my oldest is 20. He's living up in Montana. And my youngest is 17. He's got 1 year left of high school, and that's just going to be a huge transition for my wife and I. We live here in Texas, and we're planning on being snowbirds, which sounds like old people things. We're going to have a home up in Montana, up in the mountains, because I am a mountain lover. So that's
Yep.
a little bit more about me. Is my love for the mountains and the outdoors, which if you've ever been to Texas, it's not super conducive to going out and hiking or mountain biking or snowboarding, which are the things that I literally grew up doing. I started mountain biking at the very first of really where it started to gather its weight or its steam in 1986. Same with snowboarding, started in 1986, and like just lived and breathed to be outdoors.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a little bit about me. My company, Hire VP, is a company that serves business owners, and it serves business owners in a way that my desire is to help business owners avoid a lot of the lessons I had to learn the hard way, being
Mhm.
21 years in business, in
Yep.
different businesses. And so it is there to serve businesses. And you said something earlier, and it really resonated with me, I think before we were recording. But one of our core values is success. And the way we talk with our team about this is a win-win-win. And so really what Hire VP is it's a virtual assistant, like a virtual staffing agency. So we
Mhm.
place very high level VAs is what they're called. We call them virtual professionals with individuals who own businesses or running businesses and need help. I'm passionate about delegating because that's what freed me from the shackles of never ending work. But that win-win-win, and we tell all our VAs this, and my team just like exudes this is like if we can help our VAs win on a very high level, that directly helps our clients win on a very high level.
Mhm.
And then if we can help our clients and our VAs win on high level, Hire VP is going to be great. We're going to be
Yeah.
in great shape. And so that's really kind of the principle we live by. And I get just incredible joy helping people like you get a little more done at a very reasonable price, but also just kind of level up in a way that most people didn't even know was possible.
Yeah. Yeah, we're definitely going to pull on some of those threads, and I want to say you don't help people level up a little bit. You help people level up a lot.
Love it.
And so there's a significant difference there. But let's go back, not all the way to the beginning, but when you started kind of down this path of Hire VP, how did you get into this? Because as I mentioned, as I've been watching you and kind of exploring this a little bit more, the VA world is new to a lot of people, but it's obviously caught in fire, I would say, over the last like 3 to 5 years. But I feel like you were a little bit ahead of the curve on that, and you had kind of discovered there was an opportunity here. So was it something in your own personal life that you saw, hey, this is an opportunity to grow a business, or hey, I need help. I'm going to go search out and find out what I can do with this, and then help other people discover the same thing?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And it stems back to actually, um, it started in 2001, not with VAs, but the journey that's led me to starting Hire VP.
Hmm.
So that may be a story for another time, but
Sure.
basically, I was running a business and working full time as an educator and had my first child. And really, 5 years of that and running very successful business and teaching the same time, realized that I was sacrificing everything for what I thought was the most important thing, and that was providing financially for my family,
Hmm.
which turns out that really isn't the most important thing by any means. So fast forward to like 2019, I am a contractor for a fitness brand, and I've developed their sales process. I've done all of their sales. I have developed their customer experience journey and was delivering all the customer experience. It went from 7 clients to 182 like in a year and a half.
Hmm.
So I was working hard. I was an entrepreneur because I've always been entrepreneurial. So I was in there building a business inside their business, and I was also running masterminds for them. So I was working with business owners all over the world, gym owners, and I had this great friend, and we created this podcast and um, social media group called the Brotherhood of Fatherhood, which was a
Love that.
passion project, and that grew. And here I am doing all this work for this company as a contractor, and I started a podcast, and I'm editing the podcast, and I'm running this Facebook group, and I'm wanting to do events and like trying to start building a personal brand. And I was talking with my mentor at the time, and I said, I'm just overwhelmed, and here I am working all these hours again. I'm back to where I was before.
Yeah.
And I really didn't internalize that until a little later, which I'll explain. But he said, very wisely, I didn't know what the point was at the time, but he said, Scott, you know what you need is a VA,
Hmm.
but you're never going to be successful with that.
Hmm.
And so, probably knowing my personality, it was like game on.
Yeah.
Um,
Challenge
yeah,
accepted.
challenge accepted. Hold my beer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, what really was cool is what I realize now is I'm trained. I have a degree in psychology, so I understand behavioral psychology. I understand how to attract people, how people operate, and so
Mhm.
assessments are really big in my head and
Yeah.
data. And then I also have a degree in education, and I'm a very good educator. So here I'm, and so I take that challenge and I go down every rabbit trail I can. Okay, here's a masterclass on hiring your first VA. Here's how to run a VA. I took every course. I signed up for masterclasses. I was doing everything I could, and I hired my first VA who had never worked as a VA before.
Hmm.
I just went all in. And this is where my personal working genius or and intelligence level from all my past experiences really came into play. Is I was able to teach her through shadowing and using Loom and some other tools to do the podcast the way I wanted it.
Hmm.
Then to start creating social media and
Hmm.
then to start posting it. And then before long, she got better at it than I ever was. And so I was using her full time, like right out of the gates. This was 2019. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, and I realized, interesting. I filled her plate. I'm working massive hours. What if I hired another one and had them do all my reporting for the company I'm serving? So bring someone else on. Three VAs deep later, I'm paying this,
Yeah.
and here's an epiphany that happened, but I didn't do anything about it. Huh? I'm still working the same amount of hours. So I'm sitting here and I'm leading these masterminds and I'm telling these business owners, like, look, you got to get a VA. You
Mhm.
got to offload some of this stuff. It's amazing. They do better work than any US based person I've ever worked with.
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody, but literally. And they're like, Scott, we've tried it. Our VAs disappear. We can't find good help.
Yeah.
They're doing five jobs and get everything wrong. They can't speak
Yep.
English. They don't want to work the hours I'm working. I'm like, well, I figured all that out. And one of the guys who was a good friend finally said, Scott, I just kind of need you to stop talking about it and just let me use yours. He's like,
That's awesome.
you've obviously found unicorns. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
um a little bell went off in my head. Like,
Yeah.
wait a minute. And so I hired her out to him and made back in 1 week what I paid her in a month.
That's amazing.
And so very soon after, a company called VAs for Gyms was born, and that was a service where I took all these VAs. I could hire VAs and project manager. You would pump work into us, and she would manage it and assign it, and we would do video editing, podcast editing,
Mm.
admin, build out SOPs, research. That company still exists. It's still running,
Mm.
which is phenomenal, which is the power of a VA because a VA, my third hire in that company is running that
That's
fully.
amazing. That's
Yes.
amazing.
So that was how I got started with VAs. And so I started running this company. And when I got to a point, I had a business partner. I was able to leave the other company that I was consulting for, and they had to hire 5 full-time people
Mhm.
to take over what I
That's
was doing.
ridiculous.
And before I offloaded that to VAs, I was doing all of that. And I was
Yeah.
like, wait a minute here. I promised I would never do this all-in work for everyone else except for my family.
Yeah.
And here I am. It was that moment again. Here I am doing it again.
Hmm.
And so at that moment, I vowed to delegate without adding. And instead of delegating and continuing to add to my plate,
Hmm.
I would delegate and elevate. So from this moment on, I am going to continue to refine what I'm doing to be the most impactful in my business and in my life without adding time. And I
Yeah.
started playing what I call the EHR game, the earned hourly rate. So I calculated my hourly rate, which was really low because I was working massive hours.
Yep.
And then the game was to never go backwards and always go forward. So as soon as I hit $35 an hour, which took some time, I was
Yep.
able to hire a lawn guy. I'm delegating that now because that's more than I earn. That's how my journey in VA started.
Love it.
But in, oh gosh, 2022, possibly, I'm really bad with dates. There was a mass exodus in my company. I bought my partner out. I hadn't paid it off yet. We were in the agreement phase. I never shared this with him. We lost 70% of our recurring
Wow.
revenue,
Wow.
like overnight. And it was a circumstance that looking back, I should have known. It's like when you put all your eggs in one basket
Yep.
in a
Yep.
business. And I had to reconcile with that. But the problem is I vowed to pay my VAs no matter what. They were still executing. My loss of clients was not their fault. And I was barely making payroll. I had no money for myself.
Yeah.
So I bought the company and it tanked. And so I get a referral and I'm on the phone with this gal and she's a doctor. I'm getting all sorts of clients at this point. We changed the name from VAs to gyms to Media Machine.
Okay.
But I'm on the phone with this gal and she's talking to me and I'm sitting there going, "Oh my gosh, my service is not for this lady. This is I'm like she's gonna tear this thing apart. It's not gonna work. It's gonna be really frustrating."
Yeah.
And this is a message I want everybody to hear if you're in business. You've got to be looking for problems people are having and solving them
Hmm.
within your genius and within what you know. Like if someone said, "I need marketing," which happened all the time, I'm like, I don't know how to do marketing. I
Yeah.
never went to marketing. It was a problem that needed to be solved, but it wasn't something I was comfortable with.
Yep.
So I said, you know what? Um, I I can't sell you my service. I just can't. It's not the right service for you. What you need is your own VA, and here's why. You need someone that understands exactly how you work at a very high level. You need
Hmm.
someone who can work without you pushing all the buttons. They can actually see what needs to be done and start doing it without you. You need more than just a task team.
Yeah.
You need someone at a higher level.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Well, okay." And I said, "Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go find that person for you. You're going to pay me a fee and find that person for you. And then you're going to be off to the races." So I did that and it worked so well. I got nonstop leads from her and Hire VP was born.
Amazing.
And yeah, and it took a while to get it up and running, but we are now 2.5 years in. I've yet to run an ad. We are referral and network based only, and it's just been incredible to watch and see this thing grow out of the massive desire and need to have really high level people helping you that are fully committed to your brand.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that story. I didn't know 95% of that. I think it's so cool because obviously I came in at the higher VP side of things. So it's great for the additional background. And your business is unique in the sense of typical VA companies that I've come across. It's, hey, we're going to go find somebody for you, but there's not a lot of hands-on. It's not a white glove approach.
Right.
You have certain things that you've set up. Obviously, you've learned a lot of this along the way, but you said something really interesting around, Scott, you had a unicorn as your first VA. It brought me back to something Andy Frisella says all the time about his company, First Form. He's like, like, what do you think? I just go out and like find these random people and they're just good from go? No, like they're developed in a culture. So,
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit about the culture that you try to push in? Maybe not directly for higher VP, but why is culture for higher VP so important? And then how does that translate to the customer once you have them as a client? Because that translation, I think, alleviates a lot of the concern that businesses like mine have when you hire out this work to a person who is international.
Yeah. Yeah. I was engrossed in the customer journey in the last two jobs I'd had. So I'd really gotten myself kind of dialed in on, I'd done a lot of studying, a lot of reading around the customer experience.
Mhm.
And I derived incredible joy from customers saying like, oh, wow, that was easy. And I started to pinpoint my frustration point in the marketplace. Uh, it was all around upset or not happy people working
Mhm.
and lack of communication. And so in my brain, I'm like, I'm going to put this thing together where my people are happy. Whoever is client facing and in my company is going to have a set of core values that is going to lead them and grow them into a person who loves doing what they do.
Yeah.
And that is incredibly important for me. And then it was the fastest way to lose a customer or a client and or frustrate them is let them build a narrative because you're not giving it to them.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, I
Go
had
figure
this
it out.
experience. Yeah, I had this experience the other day. I had some work on my bike, and there was all this miscommunication. They're like, "Oh, we didn't know that." I'm like, "Well, it's in the text thread, all these things."
Yeah.
I was driving there, and I'm like, "It's such an easy equation to solve." So, with that in mind, there's this book I read by wow, anywhere. Horst Schultz was the founder of Ritz Carlton, and
Okay.
you may have heard me talk about this. Been talking about it a lot lately, but early on, he's got janitors and maids and front desk people and concierges, and he noticed this discrepancy between them and this very high end client, and he's like, I can't have my people feeling lesser if they're going to serve at a very high level.
Yeah.
And so I kind of took that and I was
Hmm.
like, okay, I need a team that is so bought in and so client focused. And then also, I need them to feel elevated. So, like from the very start, I am encouraging. There's a great level of feedback that comes with love and growth focus.
Hmm.
I teach everybody that comes through leadership concepts. Our team meetings every week are not team meetings about the business. Our team meetings are on personal and professional growth,
Love it.
like exclusively. But Horst Schultz said to his team, and he set a standard. He said to all of his staff, "We are, ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen." And if you really think about that, basically what he did is he said, "You are just as important as these people you see in society as the most important."
Yep.
And
Yep.
when your team is operating at a level where they feel like they are the most important, they will elevate that to the client. And we've heard that before. Your first client is your team.
Yep.
And I believe that wholeheartedly. And so that's you know, the elements that have grown over time. And I failed in that a little bit in Media Machine early on and learned that lesson. And then I brought Chloe in, and Chloe. Chloe
Yep.
was my very first hire for Hire VP. She's a Filipina.
Yep.
She's pretty bright, and and it was that like, okay, we're never gonna be a company um, that does not hide things, or we're never going to hide things from our clients. We're always
Hmm.
going to be very upfront, and we're going to explain and do and tell them. We're going to do what we say we're going to do. We're going to tell them the right thing, and we're going to always serve. And she's just carried that on. I
Yeah.
mean, her and I built that together. She's now second in command,
Yeah.
but and runs. It's now a staff of 19.
That's amazing.
So it was just developed from the beginning from my lessons in how not to do things, really.
Yeah. And it kind of goes back to how Hire VP became a company, right? You saw an opportunity, you saw some of the questions that were being asked. And I use this with Francis, my VP, all the time. I say, share it from your perspective, right? You're helping me build out this business. So Francis, for further context for people, he is my VP, my VA through Hire VP, but he's really focused on operations because I'm at the point of the business where we're really scaling it up. And so I always tell him, Francis, what would you want to do? Like you're coming to this, you're new to the app, you're new to this type of process. What are the questions you're going to be asking? Because almost everybody is probably going to be feeling something very similar to that. And I found that he asks really good questions because I've been in this for so long. I just skip, steps. I skipped a step, 7 or 8 maybe, right? And I don't ask the basic questions. And I feel like one, that's really important just to get the narrative around like how do you solve problems most people are coming in to really solve. without them having to ask the question, right? You're getting ahead of it.
Yep.
But two, it's an empowerment for Francis. But in addition to that, what I think is really interesting is it helps him become more of the culture in the team, and he focuses more on his personal development as well, which for habitual growth is really important because that's exactly what we do. Again, kind of what we shared about offline here is, I said we are trying to inspire people to do more. Um, and I'm curious from your perspective when you're having these personal growth and development conversations with your team, you do it individually, but as a collective.
Mhm.
What sorts of questions are you getting from people? What are they bringing back to you versus what they're sharing with their clients?
So first of all, I want to commend you for the way that you've been working with Francis. You said several things that are key, and so you're gonna have to remind me of that question later because my brain was going back to that. Is that has been a major, major thing. Is one, everyone who comes on my team understands that they have a voice.
Mhm,
Like you have a voice, it is an incredibly important voice.
mhm,
And there's things that I'm blind to and the staff is blind to that you can bring forth. So
mhm.
there's like you have something to give. And even if you feel like it's a stupid question, it may lead us in the right direction. So there's ownership. Like ownership is so incredibly important. And I am very good at painting the vision for each individual member of our staff or our team is like where you're at now is not the final destination. That
Mhm.
doesn't mean you have a different position in the company because you might love what you do and you're actually wired for what you do because we're really good at hiring for
Yeah.
positions, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, and as long as you love it, I'll love it.
Yeah.
When you don't, talk to me and we'll find a new place for you if it's appropriate. And we just did that. But I've empowered them to be problem solvers and bring anything to me. And this has taken time. And I want business owners and people trying to level up to really hear this. When you do this, you are bringing on a superpower. And
Mhm.
so, one, when you solve problems or go through hardships, talk through every decision and the entire process with your team.
Yeah.
Like hiding it to try and look heroic and like everything's okay is a mistake. So
Yeah.
I teach on being anti-fragile. So anti-fragile is a Dan Sullivan concept. I think there's other people that talk about it, but you can be resilient, which means things don't really bother you,
Mhm.
which doesn't really help you grow. You're just not reactive.
Yeah.
Or you can be grow into anti-fragile. And this is a concept I teach frequently, which means things are going to happen to us. We're here. We need to be bison in the storm. We need to go head first and run right into that storm. But when we're on the other side, the very first thing we do is every failure, every mistake, every hiccup, every frustration, we take that, we look at it in depth and we take a lesson away and we
Mhm.
become better.
Yeah.
And so that's been from day one. And I want to tell a real quick story. I was gone Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I was speaking in front of 40 plus business owners. It was a great opportunity, but I I have now a leadership team, and I peeps got nothing from any of them, and we operate on EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System. So we had our level 10 meeting on Mondays, is where you talk about the issues and they kind of they're going through them and this one problem comes up and they're like, hey, here's the problem and here's what we did. I was like, that's awesome. Okay, you didn't even ask me, and that's a a great answer, a great solution. Then it happened again, and I'm just sitting here beaming. I'm so full of pride, and I'm like telling them, you guys, I'm like, serious.
Yeah.
Every business owner, most business owners don't give their team opportunities to do this, but every business owner dreams of this.
Yep. Yep.
Then they drop a whammy on me. And
Oh.
it's so calm and collected. So we had this thing happen. And here's what happened. And I'm like, that could ruin a whole process in our business.
Oh.
Like, this is what we would call a major setback. And they're so calm, I'm staying calm. I'm like, okay. Before I even had a second to think about it, a presentation popped up on the screen with 5 solutions to the problem. How
Amazing.
much it was going to cost, who was going to do it, how it was going to be executed, what the time frame was, and what the advantages were.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, you just took a horrible situation. You guys met as a team, you came up with this thing, and you actually probably improved our process, which we could have ruined. We could have had the it's ruining us to
Yep.
now I'm like, actually, I think this is actually going to be better.
Amazing.
Might cost a little more. I don't care, but I think it's going to be better. I'm just sitting there like speechless.
That's huge. Yeah.
And so that's what like I want every business owner to get to that point where they can learn to teach their team that they trust them. And then once that trust is built over time and lived out, because no one knows how we make process decisions or anything if we don't live it out loud.
Yep. Yep.
And so yeah, and I think that's a key. My a lot of my content is around, hey, like I screwed up here. Here's where I struggled. And I mean, literally yesterday, was yesterday, Tuesday? Yeah. I was on a walk and I started to freak out about the problem. I'm like, that tells you how confident they were. That later I was like, wait a minute. And then I was, no, no, no. The solution is much better
Yeah.
than our previous. So being anti-fragile, teaching the team anti-fragile, living out loud in front of them, mostly through my mistakes, errors, and downfalls has generated a culture of we're going to win at all costs and we are all going to push everything, all of our cards in. We're all in to help. And that's just something I wanted to make sure I shared
Yeah.
because it's not about me. It's about them and the power of team and power of delegating, not just tasks, but delegating higher level thinking and problem solving.
Yeah. There's a couple of threads that I want to pull on here. So one of the threads which we're going to come back to is developing internally these new team members. And when I say these new team members, your clients pick up a VA, I'm considering that their team member because it is, right?
Yes. Oh,
The,
absolutely.
but what you said in your story that I thought was really, really interesting is, again, they came to you with solutions. That is something that is a learned skill set, right? You know, we talked about developing unicorns, but as you're developing a team member, and I'm gonna kind of slightly take us on a tangent here because I've joined some of your group sessions with business owners that are your clients, and I think those are really, really helpful. But as an example, I hear a lot of people, you know, even in background conversations, as soon as they hire a VA, it's this I have this expectation and this person is here just to deliver a product. And I think that's a good perspective. I don't see anything wrong with that because they are a team member, they are there to be productive. But I think what gets lost in translation for a lot of people is the developmental like phase of it, right? And when you're
Right.
dealing with a virtual person who is, you know, thousands of miles away from you, or even, you know, could be in the next house, but you're still virtual, you know, you're not getting those water cooler moments. You're not having the, hey, let's go out to lunch and we're going to talk this project through. It's actually a lot more painful for people to carve out time to jump on a screen and a camera and try to hash this out in real time. A lot of business owners don't do that, but they set very high expectations.
Right.
And so how, you know, in the communication aspect of it, there's a lot of things that I would share, but how do you get business owners to understand when you're hire VP and you get a VA coming into your culture, there is this period where you need to be able to articulate your expectations so that over time, you know, 6 months, a year, whatever it is down the line, that same story that you just shared about them coming to you and saying, hey, Scott, there's this massive problem, but we've got 5 different solutions for you. That happens to those business owners because then that word of marketing is just, or that word of mouth is just going to blow up for them and
Right.
for your business, right?
Right. Yeah. So the biggest message that I get across to people, and it's part of our onboarding, is you really should start your journey with a very candid discussion, and it should be heartfelt and real. And this is really hard for a lot of business owners. One, here's who I am as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what's important to me. Here's what my family, share who your family is. And um, so the more personal you can get, especially with the culture of the Filipinos, the more success you're going to have and doing the same to them. And so you're not generating a relationship slowly over time as you gain trust, like you do in person at the water cooler. You pass someone, you start asking superficial questions. You kind of, building rapport over time. Then it's like, oh, I can trust this person a little bit.
Hmm.
One thing, and this is one thing I love about the Filipino culture, is that there is a high level of honor, respect, and loyalty.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if I can get our clients to go deep fast, I tell them, prepare for your wheels off, because now this person is so invested in you, because no other Americans do that.
Yeah.
And so that is like the cheat code. And so we're telling, when a new person comes onto my team, they know what time I wake up. They know what I do in the morning. They know what's important to me. They basically are laid out my 3 hour morning program, routine program. So they know that if they send me a message and I'm not answering, what's going on. They know what's important to me. They know my values ladder, my personal values, and they know our company values.
Hmm.
They know, I teach them. I will tell them, when I am like this, it's best to act like this. I know myself when I'm really frustrated, or you see this thing come over me, or I lash out.
Yeah.
Here's how to best respond. You have to know yourself pretty well
Yep.
to get to that point.
Hmm.
But it really comes down. I was just talking to someone this week, and they're like, we sat down on the first day and just asked her questions for like an hour.
Yep.
Tell me about your family. Oh my gosh, you have a daughter. What's her name? What does she love to do? Is she in school? What does she do when you're working? I mean, like, just on and on and on again. And they're like, I feel like she would lay down her life for us.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
she probably would. And so it's a little counterintuitive, but you have to do that in a virtual environment. You have to be fully authentic,
Hmm.
and you have to put away the pride
Yep.
and be completely humble, so that they see, oh my gosh, it's a real person, and I want to serve this real person to the highest level possible, because it's going to serve me for a
Yeah.
very long time.
Yeah. And that's that transitional period that I was mentioning. I think we always forget, the expectation is I need this done. I'm going to hire somebody. They're going to come in and they're just going to do that. But most people negate the whole process getting to that point.
Right.
We just say it's, and for us in the States, I think sometimes it's the plague of instant gratification, right? I can order something online and it's at my door in an hour. It doesn't work necessarily the same as people. And I know we're focusing on higher VP and in international workers, but at the same time, this is anybody in the workspace, right?
It's the same
Everybody,
thing.
it's a person. You are going through the same process. There's sometimes a different willingness to get things done, but you still have to find the person that's hungry, that's open, that's willing. But what I've really found, and this goes back to the mental transformation thread I wanted to pull on, let's hone in on an individual person in your organization, not everybody, but when you bring somebody to the table, as an example with Francis, I spend a lot of time around creating safe spaces. And I do this with other people that I manage as well. But for Francis as the example, there were conversations we would have, and I would say, hey, Francis, it's okay for you to be frustrated. I want you to share these things with me. I want you, like, if you disagree, like, you need to tell me, I'm not here to direct your every move. I need you to get to the point where you can take ownership, that word that you used earlier in the conversation. But in creating that safe space, it was amazing to me because he started to really open up. He started to be like, wow, I've never had these conversations before. I would love to get engaged a little bit more. And I'm taking this type of situation. I'm going to bring this back to my family. Now I can have a different type of conversation or narrate things in a different way. Do you see that quite frequently as you're developing people?
Yes. I mean, it's super common. One thing that I encourage my clients to do, or anybody with staffing, because I talk in general around staffing and having the right people in the right seats, and actually, getting out of the grind that the chaos you're putting yourself in with business. But
Yeah.
um, my team has, and anybody that works with me has permission to make a mistake. And so we talk about what that looks like, what it means, and what it doesn't mean. And the I have to specifically say you're never going to get fired for a mistake unless it was intentional thing or it was a repeated thing,
Yeah.
right? Like, so we have to set that. I have to set very clear safety boundaries of one, you have permission to tell me when you don't understand me.
Hmm.
You have permission to tell me when you feel like I am in a and I'll say in a respectful way, you have permission to tell me when you think I am wrong.
Yeah.
You can push back as needed with respect, and it will always be returned with respect.
Yeah.
Because the best ideas and the most growth in the company have not come from my head. They've come from people saying, I see this a little bit differently. Are you willing to listen, or can
Yeah.
we try?
Yeah.
And so I think setting them up for, I trust you. You have more knowledge than me in certain areas, and that's going to bring in, it's an area of multiplication. We think of as an employee as a subtraction. They're subtracting work from me. Well, why don't you think about it as multiplication? No, this person's coming in to do something that I might be okay at, but
Hmm.
they're multiplying the opportunity because now they're focused solely on the things that they're focused on, freeing me up to multiply in other areas.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so stop thinking about subtracting from your workload and multiplying your company and your ability to grow and to be more creative, more authentic,
Yeah.
more serving. And I think I know you have to intentionally give permission to make mistakes, speak
Yes.
freely, and operate in a way that really allows us to see what you have to offer.
I would agree with that. I think saying it out loud, and I'm glad you brought it up in that capacity because that was the next point I was going to make is when you're doing it with Hire VP, when I'm doing it with Habitual Growth, and any business owner, any, quite frankly, leader within an organization or even in your personal life, when you get better at communicating, when you are sharing and you're saying things like, hey, it's okay in this capacity for you to push back and do it in a respectful way, you're opening the door. When you're trying to grow somebody personally, you're opening that door. But what it also does, right? Again, let's go back to what you were saying about a subtraction versus an addition. I think about it like, hey, I'm actually, for me being able to sit here and say, these are the things that are important to me. These are the expectations. Let's talk about this scenario. Let's talk about why you're feeling the way you are. You have a problem. What are these solutions? And you actually open up those communication channels. It isn't always about developing the other person. It actually helps you formulate your thoughts because I'm sure
Yes.
you went through this process when you were developing Hire VP and still do it to this day. It's like I it's hard to get things out of your head sometimes, but when you're talking to another person, when you're asking questions, when you're having a dialogue and you're trying to share, it also helps you formulate and really structure your thoughts and almost next steps. So you're developing yourself simultaneously. So I always love these conversations because I think, wow, I'm learning as I'm actually talking and trying to educate them and grow that person.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, and another thing that came to mind is when you are growing other people, you're growing yourself. It's a very reciprocal activity.
Mhm.
Example, when I give people permission and I share things with them on a personal level and I share failures with them, basically what I'm doing is setting myself up in a vulnerable way that will backfire, can backfire,
Mhm.
excuse me. Eventually, over time, it will backfire.
Yeah.
And I was asking my wife the other day, I said, am I too open, honest, and vulnerable? Am I setting myself up for problems? And she says, well, yeah, I mean, you've experienced them and you felt burnt. But she goes, your gifting, that gifting is so much greater than the pain that is brought on by a few bad seeds. And so I think, we grow through those experiences. And if we don't allow those experiences to happen, we're basically avoiding. And
Hmm.
so, I referred to the bison or buffalo in a storm, and it's the only animal that runs into a storm. So you'll see over the big storm will come over the Rockies, and bison in herds, usually there's a lead, it's usually a female, go figure, will turn and walk directly into the storm. They
Yeah.
won't run. They'll look at that problem and they'll just start walking into that storm. And um, and there's a high survival rate, very high survival rate. And if you look at some of those bison, their head is covered with heavy fur, their shoulders are covered with heavy fur, their chest, and then the tuft of their back.
Hmm.
Well, that's because that's the area being hit by the storm. So they're building resilience.
Mm.
All right. On the other hand, cattle will see it. they'll turn butt to the storm away and run away. Well, you
Yeah.
can't outrun a storm. So first they're running, so they're exhausting themselves. They're breaking themselves down.
Yeah.
Then that storm, whether they're running directly from it or perpendicular or whatever, will overtake them, and many, many, many die. And so buffalo are the only bison, American bison are the only animal in the world that do that. And I think there's lessons to be had for us, is that, like, look, if we can, and our team, we can teach our teams that every challenge, the fastest way through is through.
Yeah.
And so we've kind of held that as a pillar. That's a family value of ours, is like, be the bison. But I think when we're faced in a business, the differentiator is overcoming adversity
Hmm.
and surviving that adversity and then becoming better and better. And it's that anti-fragile thing.
Yeah.
And when we do this, we're going to have a lot more bumps and bruises, but if we do it the way of the buffalo, we're going to be a lot stronger, a lot firmer, a lot more protected.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. And I haven't heard all those details about the bison. I know the story well. Actually, there's a herd when you're going up I-70 over here. There's a whole herd right off the highway that I take the kids to every time we go up into the mountains. It's like, what side of the freeway are the buffalo going to be? Is it going to be the north side or the south side? It's kind of funny to
That's
to
we
always guess.
That's amazing. We don't have them here. We'll probably see them when we move to Montana, but
Yeah.
we have large prints and paintings and photos on
So
our
cool.
walls all over the house. So
Yeah.
I'm a little jealous, but that's
I
fine.
love that. Well, be an American bison, not a cow, right? I think
Yes.
that's the lesson of that one. But you mentioned your family, and I kind of want to start rounding things out here. How is your journey and kind of everything that you've shared in this conversation, but more focused on Scott and your transformation over time? How is that? How have your business skill sets been leveraged in your personal life, your relationship with your wife or your kids, or how you conduct yourself? What are some of those bigger takeaways that you've found?
Yeah, I mean, to be a business owner, you have to really weather the storms. I mean, I hate to sit in that analogy, but it's so relevant. Um, I think I learned more lessons through errors, or more how to be a better father and husband through the errors I made.
Hmm.
Really neglecting my responsibilities, not fostering the relations, not being super intentional when I'm present. And I see a lot of business owners do this. They're there, but they're not there.
Yeah.
Um, and so I've had to learn this lesson that, like, and we're not raising children. Let's talk about children first. We're not raising children. We're not called to raise children. If we raise children, we would have a bunch of entitled weirdos running around, which we kind of do. And that's a result of treating children like children.
Yeah.
We need to be forgiving and loving, but we need to actually have in mind that we're actually raising future adults.
That's right.
And when I started to really kind of download that, and this is during my brotherhood of fatherhood days, I started to realize that, everything's caught, not taught. And so, wow, I better be better about the things I'm doing. And I started building out routines. So I believe routines and habit are incredibly important, with purpose.
Yep.
And I looked at other people's and tried to emulate them, and eventually realized, no, you have to create your own. So for me, I read the Bible
Mhm.
every single day, and I have like a 5-year streak. It's crazy. But the because then when my children ask me, or kids ask me, how do you handle things, or where do you find information? I can tell them, and they believe it because they see it. So
Yeah.
one, you've got to be that person. So everything I do because I know it's going to help me grow, and then it also is going to pass down.
Hmm.
And I think just living authentically. I think I've learned to just live authentically. I talk through my failures with my boys,
Yeah.
because I'm like, dang, if I want them to be successful adults and successful contributors to this society, why don't I prevent them, or at least give them tools to bypass the problems I had? And pride will cause us to hide all the things that have happened bad, and then we'll just repeat them. Our
Yeah.
families will repeat them. So this
Yeah.
is really the approach that I've taken. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to talk about my problems, my failures, and my mood and everything, and then I'm going to use it as they see me grow, I'll explain how I grew and what happened in that situation. So I
Hmm.
did that from a very early age on after I kind of got my act together. And then, and then I realized, like, look, I owned a gym for a while and realized my kids just like working out. I never had to ask them. And it's like, okay, ding, ding, ding. I never need to, I can't ever stop now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I have got to work out. I've got to move. And so what I eventually realized is that my personal growth, my when I do 75 hard or I do rucks every single morning, and I pray every single day and I read the Bible every single day, and I work out every single day, and I read every single day. Those are more about doing the things I have to do to grow and continue to grow, but also passing on that thing as normal.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if I don't live it out loud, it's normal. And here's the thing is I've started to notice, like, year one in my business, that my team started saying, I started going to the gym. I got a personal trainer. I'm walking 10,000 steps a day. And I'm not sitting there asking them. I just
Yeah.
share what I've been doing.
Yeah.
And so I don't remember the question, but I think leadership is so much bigger than we think, because we're like, oh, it's just a leadership concepts. John Maxwell concepts are amazing. But we really have to live it out loud.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the authenticity piece is there. One thing I was talking about with my wife, ironically last night. So my dad passed coming on 4 years here. And I was just sharing it's weird because I remember being in high school when I'm now his age at the time. And I just told her I wish he was an entrepreneur. I wish I would have asked a lot more questions when he was alive.
Mhm.
But I wish I could see how my mom and my dad operated at the same time that my wife and I are operating now. And what's cool is what you shared reminded me of what we do with our kids now. And whether they remember it or not is kind of irrelevant, but it does build a really, really solid foundation. So, I'm today. Today was my last cold plunge of Live Hard Phase One, Scott. So I did it right before we jumped on this. I'm like, finally, I'm done with 30 days of cold plunging.
Yeah, that's
But
tough.
but they see us doing that every single day. When we wake up in the mornings, they may grab their shows on a Saturday morning, but mom and dad are over here reading their, 10 to 15 pages a day, right? We take them to
Mhm.
church every single Sunday. And so whether they remember that or not is almost irrelevant, but it does build up those caught behaviors that you're talking about, which then formulates them into the adults that ultimately we hope they grow up to be. Whether or not they get there is kind of up to them at some point, but it's those foundational elements that are really important. And I try to take opportunities to overshare with them, kind of what you were talking about with your team a
Yeah.
little bit, where it's like, hey, I'm just doing this. I'm not asking you anything, but this is what I'm doing. I try to do that. You're probably better at this than I am, but I also try to give them a little bit more context, right? Hey, I'm doing this because of X, Y, and Z, right?
You have to do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I've just found oversharing, maybe it's not oversharing, but just giving more context and giving it freely, right? Where it's not an opinion, you're not giving somebody your opinion, you're just simply saying, this is what I'm doing because of this, and this is the result that I get, or this helps you or Bree and I, raise you in a different way, or this is why we're developing meals together. You guys are helping with responsibilities around the house, whatever it is. But I've really found that just kind of providing additional context when it's not solicited is actually way more helpful to people sometimes than waiting for them to ask.
Like, I couldn't agree more. And let me fast forward many years for you. My 19-year-old now moved out when he was 18. He didn't go to college. And in our school and many schools, they're graded on how many kids go to college. The
Mhm.
pressure was immense. But he told me, he's like, Dad, I just want to be an entrepreneur. I never want to work for anybody else. I've watched you struggle. I've watched you succeed. I'm ready for this. And I don't care what they say.
Yeah.
And then someone asked recently, because, we've been through some tough times as a society lately. And one thing that we've noticed is they're very autonomous and have very good reasoning. So we'll ask them, what do you think of this situation? They'll say, because we've said, hey, here's what we did, here's the decisions we made, here's how it turned out, this is why we did what we did, here's where we might have changed it. That develops critical thinking skills because we're living those out loud. And I'll tell you what, my boys make incredible decisions, and it's like just sit back and kind of watch it all unfold. And my 20-year-old, he's living on his own. as a 20-year-old, paying in a very nice place, paying rent, making money multiple ways,
Amazing.
and has found his own path in faith. And he's like, I'm like just sitting here going, okay, but the kids are a sponge. And so he's just fast forwarding through a ton of the stuff that I did that was just stupid.
Yeah.
I didn't have to tell him don't do it. I
Yeah.
just said, "Hey, here's what led to this failure." And then the so I think building resilient future adults and future adults that will have great critical thinking skills is what our country needs.
Yeah.
It's a very noble and important thing to do. So I love that you're living that out loud. Hey, they may not, and the other thing is like they may not choose ice baths. I don't care,
Yeah.
but it's going to be executed in some way, and it's
Yeah.
going to pay off in some way.
Yeah, it's that holistic perspective that we really champion in this household, but also as habitual growth, right? It's not about the micro movement. At some point, it is
Yeah.
about the discipline and the accountability, but if it's not the cold plunging or the cold showers, guess what? It's going to be, hey, mom and dad were consistent because they had a goal, they
Mhm.
wanted to achieve the goal and they put in the work, right? They were living for something a little bit better. They were trying to teach it. So it's you can you take any scenario and pull it in a million different directions, but it's really what you communicate. And that's what I love so much about you, Scott, and what you're doing. I'm incredibly proud of what you and the team have built at Higher VP. I know you give a lot of credit to your team, but you and your wife are the people with the vision that have gone through those hardships. And it is a lot of it is caught, not taught. But the other piece of that is the people that are ultimately catching it have to learn from somebody. And so there's so much importance in sharing, getting this information out there. So I appreciate you taking the time to do this with me today. You've got such an incredible story. You've grown so much. What, one, where can people find you if they want to get a hold of you on the socials? And then two, are there any parting thoughts you want to share with listeners before we head out?
Well, great. Thank you very much. It's been, I just want to kind of share, it's been really cool. I remember our first conversation that we had and just been really cool watching you as well. And I'm a fan. So again, we just so you all know, all of you, if you're putting yourself out there and you're not getting the responses, but you're being authentic, you have fans, you just don't know it. And I think it's really important to remember that. People can find me, Scott Ramage, two M's in the Ramage, on Facebook and Instagram. Of course, we have the Higher VP socials, but everything I live and breathe, everything personal and business through there. And it's higher or Scott at hirevp.us if you want to email me. But the socials are I'm always there and I'm the one responding. I do have team creating content, but I am the one responding. And it's just been amazing being on this. I think my message to people would be to really look at your life. If you're living in any type of chaos and using that as a little bit of a dopamine hit, reevaluate, especially if you're a business owner, reevaluate why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
You are not your business.
Yeah.
You are not your success. You are you. You are who God created you to be. And so a lot of times business owners and individuals peg themselves as I'm a Bears fan, or I'm the VP at this business, or I am the owner of this business. No, no, you're not. Those can be taken away at any moment.
Yeah.
And so that would be a big message that I would say is to really find out who you are and what your purpose is. Go deep, do a deep dive. And then when you start living for that, everything else comes into great positioning.
Yeah, I love that. Well, you're a true leader, Scott. Thank you so much for all of what you shared today. I'm sure we're going to do this again sometime soon. So really
I hope
appreciate the
so.
time. This was a
Thank you, Jacob.
pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, we'll talk to you later. See ya.